welcome to Staying Positive and Testing Negative. My name is Sophie Borozan and I'm a sophomore at Gonzaga University, located in Spokane, Washington. As the world has had to adjust to the painful reality the pandemic has brought, our education has also been largely affected. This past year has challenged the Gonzaga community, and we want to reflect on these events through storytelling. There is no doubt that this past year has been memorable. Whether you're remote learning from home or on campus, 2020 has shifted our lives. But thanks to the Gonzaga community, students have found a way to unite under the new normal of college life. With this GU-produced TV show, we will be looking at the past events of this semester and looking forward to what we'll see next. First, we have Zach Beer telling his story of graduating high school through a pandemic.
We are currently experiencing the COVID-19 pandemic. This has affected many aspects of our day-to-day lives. I am a college freshman from Spokane. Because of the pandemic, large events were canceled this year, including graduations. Because of this, my high school decided to do a drive-through graduation where students were still able to come to campus and receive their diplomas. Because I graduated this year, I decided to attend college. But this has also been affected by the pandemic. I made the decision to live from home this year because most events were becoming virtual or being canceled. Because I'm from Spokane, I'm still able to come to campus most days, where I spend most of my time in the Hemmington Center, attending virtual classes. Virtual classes are a challenge though. You don't get the same kind of social interaction as you would in a normal classroom setting. But Gonzaga has worked really hard to provide opportunities for students to still get to know one another and foster that sense of community. We are currently experiencing this pandemic, but it will not last forever. If we work together, we will come out of this stronger than ever.
I am Khoury, a freshman here, and I was able to experience a week in the COVID-19 dorm at Gonzaga at the Roncalli House on campus. As a freshman, this is the closest experience that some of us got to normal college. Imagine no masks in the dorm, being able to interact with people whenever you want, and no RAs. This is what the COVID dorm was like. Basically, students had free reign to experience college kind of normally in a pandemic. Sure, there was no outdoor time, but there was no signs that said only 5 people were allowed in the dorm, or in a room in a dorm. And this was a very interesting experience. Having the virus on a college campus was something that was very hard to deal with though. At the beginning of the year, the school really didn't know what they were doing when it came to handling the pandemic and putting kids in isolation, as things like outdoor time were forbidden and the food situation was not that great. But over time, the school has improved a lot, and I've heard some great things about the improvements that Gonzaga has made in the isolation dorm from friends who have been put in since I got out. But something that I always remember because I persevered. This experience allowed me really to realize that college is a challenge, but something that I'm wholeheartedly ready for.
Midway through the semester, Gonzaga opened up intercollegiate activities for students to participate in. My name is Keenan and I am a member of the club baseball team here at Gonzaga. We didn't have any coaches, so we had to figure out this COVID semester on our own. Our first practice happened on October 26th and had some restrictions. First, we all had to have masks on at all times, including during bullpens and fielding drills. This was something that was expected, and no one on the team had any real issues with the policy. We only were allowed to compete against each other, which was very different from the previous season. Last year, pre-COVID, we played 3 different series against each other, including a trip down to Boise State. This year, there was none of that. We only got to practice, and we're hoping for some competition this spring. The last major restriction was that we were only allowed to have 5 people per practice. This was hard to overcome for the team, but we were able to figure out a good system to have everyone co-play. We spread out practice time throughout the week, allowing everyone the opportunity to go out and practice. We all were very thankful that we were at least able to practice this semester, as I imagine all club sports teams were. Personally, I think that we had a very good plan going into the semester, and we were able to adapt throughout the year. It was a little bit of normal in a world of irregularities.
My everyday routines always vary depending on the day, but I usually try and wake up between 10 and 11 to start my day. I go downstairs and I get ready for the morning. I brush my teeth and do whatever I have to do, and then I go downstairs and make myself breakfast. My breakfasts usually aren't this big, but since it was my best friend's birthday, we all eat together. And I quickly make a cup of coffee, and then I go back upstairs to my room and start class for the day. Depending on the day, I have different classes, but I usually am at my computer for most of the day. Since I'm always on my computer, my roommates and I like to go on a lot of walks, and we also like to eat dinner together so that we can spend quality time together. After dinner, I usually check my emails, and then I call it a night and go to sleep to wake up the next morning and do the same thing.
COVID has brought a lot of uncertainty to our day-to-day lives. From living at home to living with 7 other roommates to living in a COVID dorm, we have all had to adjust. From August to December, Gonzaga has made improvements to best cater to students' needs who are on campus. Change did not happen overnight, but as students, we will continue to accept what reality holds for us. Next up, we have Ehrlich, who tells us her story of transferring and moving across the state during a pandemic.
Last year, my family and I decided to move to Spokane since it was a change of pace and scenery from Orange County, where I was born and raised. The rest of last year consisted of us preparing for the move and searching for a new university. Gonzaga stood out to me due to its location, campus culture, and the academic program I hope to pursue, and for these reasons, I chose to commit. Once the pandemic hit in March, my hopes for the future were altered. I began to worry and stress about where my life was and where it was going, causing my anxiety to get extremely bad. Luckily, I was able to recover, and my family and I were able to move as we had planned without any setbacks. Once we arrived in Spokane, we settled in our new home, and I began my first semester at Gonzaga fully remote. It was odd to be attending a school that I had never actually been on the campus of, and also without any friends or familiar people. This obviously is not the ideal setting to be transferring to a new school, but I'm grateful I did since it has bettered my ability to adapt to new situations and focus more on my academics.
The obvious is that 2020 felt like a train derailing from its tracks. There are many historical feats and defeats. However, one ongoing issue that isn't new to this country is the political and social division that we have amongst our neighbors. The division seems to co-align with COVID-19. However, political division in America has a long history. This year felt like it was all wrapped into one. Now, despite the chaos and utter physical statistics of what happened this year, there are human opinions, and they are mostly at ends with each other. COVID has killed over 250,000 people, and yet people are not standing together in solidarity, but rather they have pitchforks pointed at each other. COVID has affected universities like never before. Students were forced to go online, they were forced to get only a fraction of what they paid for, and now people have a divided opinion amongst the issue. A vaccine is coming. The year is wrapping up, and there are a lot of opinions on the matter.
A vaccine is almost here. After a year, the end of the COVID pandemic is finally in sight. But that doesn't mean the problems with COVID will go away anytime soon, with anti-vaxxers steadily getting traction and the economy being in the worst it's been most of us have ever seen in our entire lives. The problems COVID brings will slowly transition from health to social. I was curious what plans were in place for the vaccine, so I reached out to Dr. Khoury Shelton, who is the head of the COVID task force here at Gonzaga University. And it's unfortunate to report the situation is still nowhere near solid enough for anyone to have a solid plan. The university does not have any timeline for returning to physical classes, and they don't even know if the vaccine will make that process any quicker. According to Dr. Khoury Shelton, in Washington State, the higher education institutions will have access to the vaccine. And while the FDA has said multiple times they plan to distribute the vaccines to states within 24 hours of its approval, it will be more than likely to go to hospitals before anybody else, saving the lives of both patients and first responders. All of this is not even considering the social applications of the vaccine. Anti-vaxxers and the ethics of the vaccine are still a gray area. Companies and institutions will have a hard time forcing employees and students to get a vaccine, but it has been done before. If you're on a college campus right now like I am, you got a meningitis shot. A similar provision can be introduced for the COVID vaccine, but no company or institution has said they will force anyone to get the vaccine, and President-elect Joe Biden has said the vaccine will not be mandatory. The kicker of the story is the fact that, according to Dr. Shelton, Washington State has not updated any official guidelines for the COVID vaccine or the rules surrounding the end of the pandemic as of December 4th. This obviously makes it hard for companies and institutions to have plans for the implementation and the rules surrounding the vaccine.
A vaccine is coming and will help guide our society back to whatever normal is. Gonzaga's classes will not be remote and socially distanced forever, and yes, we will someday be able to go to a basketball game again. In the time being, we should be proud Zags. Gonzaga community held strong and worked hard to give everyone the Gonzaga experience which is so desired. Although that experience may have looked different, at the end of the day, we're all still Zags.